What's up, YouTube? It's Nathan back with another video presentation. I hope everyone's off to a great weekend so far. Hope everyone had a great week. Hope everyone's staying safe. As you see the title of this video, yes, after 11 times, this video has finally been produced. I sat back and I made sure all the notes that I took, sitting deep in thought, making sure all the things that I'm going to say in this video are clear and precise for you guys to understand. But before I get into that, there's some things that need to be said up front. I'm going to redo the MLB The Show video for the seventh inning program. I have a video that's like 30-something minutes long. I'm going to condense that. I mean, the program started on the 14th, and it's now Saturday, so it's just best for me to just do another video to just show you guys where I'm at within the program and what to hopefully expect for the 8th inning program, because we're pretty much almost at the end of the game for MLB The Show. Madden 21, I believe, comes out on the 26th. I'm hoping to get that. I do plan on doing a part 4 to a series. I wouldn't say this a series, but a topic that I started with this dating in 2020 and so forth, and Tommy Lauren, and now with Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion, who are rappers, if you don't know, and their situation, and now hearing what happened with Meg. I'm thinking about doing a part 4 to that, so I'm gonna take about a day or so to really think about that, so just be on the lookout for that video. But let's get into this here video. The reason why it took me 3 weeks to make this video was because I wanted to, again, as I stated, to be clear and precise for you guys to understand where I'm coming from. Okay? Excuse me. If you don't know, by now pretty much mostly everyone should know, but if you don't, Jonathan Isaac is a power forward for the Orlando Magic. Jonathan Isaac took some criticism. Jonathan Isaac got some support during the NBA restart while they were down in Orlando. Well, no, they're currently in Orlando. They're facing the Bucks right now. They lost last night or the night before. Jonathan Isaac's out for the season. But when the NBA was started, he and Myers Leonard, along with Greg Popovich and Becky Hammon, who were coaches for the San Antonio Spurs, Jonathan Isaac stood out from everybody else. Jonathan Isaac decided not to wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirt. He decided not to take the knee. And essentially, Jonathan Isaac, I believe, started a conversation that's, in some cases, should be talked about, but is going to make some people uncomfortable to talk about, because as I am going in this video, I'm going to explain those points. But let me say this. I'm 25 years old. 3 years ago, found myself in a position where I was doing things that I know was not right. I was lost, depressed, different things that I think everyone goes through. We all have moments in life. And it took a phone call to one of my uncles to reach out and saying, hey, I would like to go to church. And 3 years later, I'm part of a church family that shows love and support. And even though I'm still learning and taking it one day at a time, there's always room for improvement. But when I looked at Jonathan Isaac's reasoning for not wanting to wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirt and take the knee, I disagree with him on that. But here's the thing that I think we all need to understand. That is his choice. If he chooses not to wear the shirt or take a knee, that is his choice. For example, Chris Jackson, former basketball player with the LSU, is now known as Muhammad Abdul-Rauf, took flack because he did not stand during the national anthem. I believe it was in the NBA Finals when he was with the Denver Nuggets. First, he was ousted and out of the NBA. I believe now he's actually with the Big Three. I forgot what team it is, but I believe he's in the Big Three league. What his reasoning behind that was because the same thing like Colin Kaepernick was, he was pointing out the racism and prejudice and social injustices against minorities, particularly African Americans. Colin Kaepernick's situation's the same thing. He took a knee because he wanted to point out, wait a minute, this is a country, we as the country of the United States of America are okay with these social injustices, the racism, police brutality. We're okay with this as a country. Jonathan Isaac uses the Bible, uses religion, when we know, particularly as African Americans, we know that that has been used as an oppression tool against us for decades. And it is a reminder to keep blacks and whites divided. That can't be denied. And listen, as a young Christian, that's his choice. However, we can't as Christians, we cannot be sitting back and putting our hands up or twiddling our thumbs and think that's okay, because it's not okay. As I stated, oppression has been manifested into this country since the day it was founded. And I believe personally, as a young Christian, God and even Jesus himself wants all to be held accountable for their actions. That's something that Jonathan's missing. This has nothing to do with the gospel of Jesus Christ himself. I admire and I respect where he was coming from, but he missed the point. It's not about that. It's about, as Christians, we cannot sit idly by and be okay with seeing this kind of stuff happening, especially when it's been happening for decades, for centuries. We cannot be okay with that. See, I wrote it down here. the definition of character is not what you're doing, it's not what you're displaying, is what you display when no one's watching. More and so, I don't know what Jonathan Isaac's character is like behind closed doors. For all I know is he can, he's probably, most likely is supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. I will say this, I do agree to an extent where he said kneeling and wearing a t-shirt's not enough. I agree with that. I understand where he's coming from on that point. Because I said this in that hour video that I posted. I said that what really counts and what really matters is voting. And it's not just on a national level, it's on a local level. I'm talking about your mayors, your city councilmen, your district congressmen, your senators, your circuit court judges, sheriffs, etc. But when you look at guys like Jonathan Isaac, people are going to use him as the symbol because, look, he's the symbol for not taking the knee. And obviously, Jonathan Isaac's jersey sale went up. I believe he was like the second most highest bought jersey behind LeBron James. Because, again, people who are not in support of kneeling are going to use that to their advantage. Because this is a rhetorical question. And it doesn't need answering. But who do you think is buying those jerseys? Just like Colin Kaepernick. When he tried to bring to the table to point out the social injustices against African Americans and other minorities, it became political. Now, I will say this. There are people who are not using their platforms correctly. And Colin Kaepernick was vilified because it now became a political and media thing. Like, for example, I'm going to use him in this here example, Charles Barkley. I didn't hear, and listen, as much as Charles Barkley is Charles Barkley, that man is going to say whatever the heck he's going to say. What comes out of his mouth, you can't stop him because he's Charles Barkley. But I didn't hear one time the platform that Chuck has, did he talk about when that man in the White House said, when he called all those NFL players SOBs and their stance with taking a knee. I didn't hear one thing about that from Chuck. I didn't hear Chuck talk about with Jonathan Isaac. Now I'm going to save that. Hold that thought. The point I'm trying to make is, we have people that are in the media that could use the platforms, really could use their platforms better. And there are people who have platforms that aren't using it properly. For example, look at Mike Ditka, who's a former head coach of the Chicago Bears, who said, if you take a knee, you need to leave this country. For someone, I don't know who Mike Ditka is. But the one thing, I said this to friends and some family members, and also, people that, how can I explain this? That know where I'm coming from. I've said that when you see situations like this, or situations when it comes to racism, police brutality, you're going to see the true colors of people. You're going to see who they really are. Because Mike Dicker making a statement like that. People now are saying this is not, listen, this is not about the flag. To an extent, it's not about the flag. It's about what's under the flag. Where for, again, centuries, we have been oppressed. It is now 2020. You would think lessons have been learned. I've said this in that video. How many more unarmed African Americans, how many more until we understand this has to be fixed? Here's the thing, the difference between, and I want to clean this point up a little bit to make sure you guys understand where I'm coming from. Colin Kaepernick taking a knee versus Jonathan Isaac not taking a knee. Colin Kaepernick probably most likely will not be in the NFL. Jonathan Isaac, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Isaac. However, I will say this. I thought it was very cruel and indicative on his part for people on social media when he blew out his knee to sit there and say that's karma, he got what he deserved. I thought that was just flat out ignorant. I thought that was just flat out sad. And again, this is what I'm talking about, showing the true colors of people. That should not have happened. People should not have made those statements about him. My next point is, I want to say that guys who don't take a knee, or, like for example, Myers Leonard. Myers Leonard plays for the Miami Heat. Myers Leonard has a brother that's in the Marine Corps. Myers Leonard said it in an interview. He understands what is happening around us as a country. He understands that. But at the same time, he has a brother that's in the Marines to protect and serve. You can do both. You can take the knee. You can do both. But see what the media has done. The media has flipped the script, and the media points out okay, he's taking a knee, he's taking a knee. Oh, he's not taking a knee. We're going to vilify him. Colin Kaepernick, Muhammad Abdul-Rauf, vilified. The one thing that I've noticed, and this I think also goes into what I'm trying to say. When you're taking the knee, or when you're wearing the shirt, you have to think for a minute. Are you doing that with your heart? Or are you doing this because, well, everyone else is doing it, I'm going to do it? Because if you're doing that, if you're not doing it from your heart, then that's not right. Don't do it. That's something we have to think about. When we think about certain situations, we have to think, are we doing this for the greater good, or we're doing this because everyone else is doing it? Okay? Now, as I'm flipping through my notes, I wanted to address the questions that were asked by Taylor Rooks, who's a reporter. Okay? Her questions were, the first one was, you didn't take a knee and you didn't wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirt. Do you believe that Black Lives Matter? Okay. Her second question, this is a follow-up question, but the first part, I wanna address that question. To me, I feel like, well, obviously, Black lives do matter. the way she asked it, I didn't like that, because it was almost as I kind of sensed this guilt trip from, well, you're not, you're not, shame on you, you're not doing this, why aren't you not doing that? And his response to the first part, I have it here, excuse me. Hold on. Essentially, he was saying, he said kneeling or wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt didn't go hand in hand with supporting Black lives. I believe that my life has been supported through the gospel, and everyone is made in the image of God. And her follow-up question was, could you explain what does religion have tie into racism and police brutality? He did say in the first part, that first question, quote, absolutely, absolutely that Black Lives Matter. A lot went into my decision, and part of it was my thought that kneeling or wearing a t-shirt doesn't go hand in hand with supporting Black lives. Again, I agree with what he said there. And then with the follow-up question, he couldn't really give a really good answer on that, because I don't think he really could explain that, because you can't really, Jonathan, you can't tie religion to racism and police brutality. You can't do that. Now, I didn't like the fact when he said, quote, we all fall short of God's glory. What do you mean by that? I mean, listen, there are days when we're not perfect. No one's perfect. Hell, there are days when I'm not perfect. But again, that's not the point. The point is that I said it earlier. Religion has been used to keep us oppressed. In this case, you're essentially saying, well, my life supported through the gospel, which I respect. I cannot knock his relationship with God. I can't knock that. But what I will challenge him is on, what about those that feel oppressed when it comes to the Bible, when it's been used against them? For example, that man in the White House was at Lafayette Park, had the use of force against peaceful protesters, and then came out that historical church holding a Bible in his hand. Do you think, Jonathan, that's something that the gospel supports? For someone that's known to be, let's just keep it honest, that's a racist, that obviously doesn't know what he's doing. For example, when he says here, quote, when you look around, racism isn't the only thing that plagues our society, that plagues our nation, that plagues our world. Quote, I think coming together on that message, we want to get past not only racism, but everything that plagues us as a society. I feel like the answer it is to the gospel. Here's the thing, Jonathan, that you're missing. As I said, this religion has been used to oppress us. These type of things for years, for decades, we as African Americans have fought for. We're still fighting for that today. See, here's the thing that you're missing, Jonathan. You're not born to be a racist. You're not taught to hate. I mean, you're not born to hate. You're taught those things. When you see, for example, all of these people that are using the Bible, for example, to keep us oppressed, they're taught that. The man in the White House I used an example. He wants to use it as a weapon to show, listen, I'm using this as a weapon. And yes, we know that no weapon shall prosper. We know that. But you know what matters, Jonathan, is when we as a community, when we as a group hold ourselves accountable and be accountable for our actions and choices that we make in life. That's what you're missing, Jonathan. When I thought about this, and I could have said this earlier in the video, but I want to make this statement to where everyone can understand from where I'm coming from. If you're mad at Jonathan for standing, you should check yourself. However, if you're happy that he's standing, in spite of those taking a knee, you should check yourself as well. You see, the point that I think Jonathan and others are missing, it's not about millionaires, billionaires complaining, oh my gosh, they're oppressed, what are they complaining about? No. See, you have to understand where some of these guys came from. They came from communities that we know that are being oppressed. We know that they have been victims themselves of police brutality. And they're trying to shed light on this. They want to use a platform that they have that some of us aren't fortunate to have. Even in my opinion, we have a platform, we have the media, but we know that the media spins and flips the narrative of most things that we are trying to fix. We know that. To really, honestly, to kind of, for you guys to understand what I'm saying, it's not judgmental to hold society and a system accountable for what it has, the detriment effect it has had upon us for centuries. Jonathan, you used, I believe it was the book of Isaac. I can't remember what chapter, what verse. But I'm going to counter argue with you with the book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so one shapes another. Meaning that we should be striving as Christians, Jonathan, to make this a better world. That's where I'm going back to my argument with accountability. Sure, I get it. It's been historically documented that there are things that have tried to keep those that are Christian, that follow God, down. I mean, for example, Benjamin Watson, a former NFL player. We all know, he is strong in his faith. He was on CNN. He was, this is about maybe about 5 years ago. He did an essay about Ferguson, and the last 60 seconds of the interview, he had said, and that's why, some along the lines of, that's why I believe, Jesus himself, went to the cross and died for our sins. Then they cut him off. And you saw, what's her name, Laura, I can't think of her name. Oh, we lost him. Which we all know, CNN didn't want to hear that. But here again, like I said, oppression has been ingrained, Jonathan, into this society, this world we live in. It's documented. I'm going to give you another one. Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 19. Quote, "Yet you ask, why does the son not share the guilt of his father? Since the son has done what is just right and has been careful to keep all my decrees, he will surely live." We know in that verse, we know that he is speaking through people who find themselves and reveal their true colors through discrimination. That's what that chapter, that verse is saying. Jonathan knows this. Listen. He's 22. There is, I believe we can all learn and grow as people. I believe that. Do I have anger towards Jonathan? No. You should never have anger towards somebody. We should always learn to forgive and move forward in life. Because holding anger against someone doesn't get you anywhere. As I stated, accountability is one of the main principles we as Christians should be preaching. That's what Jonathan's not realizing. We can't sit by and refuse to address things like systematic oppression, like racism, like police brutality, which we are still doing in 2020. Obviously, when you see what our grandfathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, moms, dads had to go through with the civil rights movement, you would think if you think they would ensure that we, the next generation, didn't have to go through what they've gone through. When I have kids soon, one day, I want to ensure that my kids don't have to go through this stuff. That's what Jonathan Isaac is missing. But I want people to understand, you can do both. It's okay to say, like in Myers Leonard's case, and I'm going to leave his explanation in the link below so you understand. He understands it. It's okay to do both. But here's the thing. And this is where I was going to hold this to the end. I can say this for the most part, we have become, in a sense, a society where we have to have this same become like-minded. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have an opinion. Because at the end of the day, it's an opinion. I have seen people get angry. I have seen people cry. I have seen people just be over emotional over an opinion. Because who, with their last dying breath, with all due respect, told you that your opinion is the opinion? We can all disagree. We can agree to disagree. That's okay. You may not agree something. In this video, you probably don't agree with what I'm saying. which you have to respect. I understand where he's coming from. We don't have to think alike. What happened to being diverse? What happened to challenging each other's thoughts? Because when you look at this with the Jonathan Isaac situation, even though it's different from Colin Kaepernick's situation, in a sense, he got vilified. Because, again, he used, which, again, I understand where people are coming from. I don't like it. Where you use the Bible, which we know has been oppressed, against us. And you're not seeing the bigger picture. There's room for us to all grow. I'm going to close it out by saying this. This is a time where we have to get back to sowing the seeds of love. Where we have to heal this country of sin that has been created for centuries. And it's not going to be easy. No one said it was going to be easy. But when you take a stance like what Jonathan did, you have to think for a minute. Are you doing this for the greater good of the people? Or you're saying, well, I'm in this shell. I don't have to worry about what's in front of me or to the sides or behind me. I'm comfortable in my own little bubble. I have nothing to worry about. That's why I challenge Jonathan Isaacs to do more. And we should all strive to be better. Again, I said it. Hold on, I wrote it. Hold on. Give me a second. Right here. Galatians chapter 6, verse 2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. We all have some work to do. We were all put on this earth for a reason. I'm sure if Jesus himself was with us today, what he's seeing, he wouldn't like that. And we know that. This is not what he went to the cross and died for our sins for. It's not. But using religion as a weapon to keep us oppressed and not see what's happening around you, you should take a look at yourself in the mirror. Think about that. If you like the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Again, also consider hitting the subscribe button. I was not playing this video to be this long, but I wanted to get out everything that I had gotten out on that in this video, because I thought it was really necessary to say. I felt it was important to get my thoughts across. I just see, listen, when I see what's happening, I don't like it. But I'm not going to go the route he went, because, again, using something like this to counter-argue, that just wasn't smart. But on that note, I'm out. Peace.